I was at Phillies, Cardinals, Carpenter, Halliday. That didn't go very well. I was at Eagles, Carolina. That didn't go very well. And Paul Hudrick, you probably shouldn't have let me go to the game last night because I was in the building for Game 7 and the loss. So these big games are not going well when I am in attendance. But we've got a lot to dissect. Let's do it now with Paul Hudrick from 97.3 ESPN.com. And, man, where do we start? I mean, obviously Simmons is at the top of everything here. But how much, people are like the anti-Ben Simmonsers are having the field day today. They are, hey, I told you. He was the problem. I told you. Here's what I would say. If Ben Simmons was simply the Ben Simmons that you are, even if you don't like that Ben Simmons, you would have won this series. He became Markelle Fultz, essentially.
Right. No, and you and I have defended Ben Simmons an awful lot this season, and I think not even necessarily defended him. I think you and I came to a level of acceptance of what he is and what he isn't. And, yeah, to your point, Mike, like even the biggest detractors of Ben Simmons would not have imagined he would have the worst free throw percentage in NBA postseason history in a run. None of us would have thought that. The guy's a 60% shooter. It's even higher, actually. I think he's around 65% in the playoffs coming in. So this isn't something that is normal for him. I mean, this is bad even for him as a not great free throw shooter. And then on top of that, like passing up dunks. Ben Simmons didn't pass up dunks during the regular season. I mean, maybe occasionally, but to the extent to which he did it in this series and the extent to which he was a complete non-factor in the fourth quarter, yeah, there were stretches where maybe he did that. But to the extent in this series, no, it was nothing like that. To your point, if he shoots 60% from the line and he is just a version of the guy that helped them get the number 1 seed, they win this series, I think, pretty easily, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he's just the guy that you got in the regular season, 14 points, that pissed people off because he only scored 14 points, and if he just shot 60% and he was still a guy that pissed you off, they would have won the series. I think it trickled down to the rest of the team, though, Paul. I feel like the rest of the team, somewhere in Game 4 or 5, realized he ain't right, man. And without him being right, we ain't got a shot. And I think you saw that. The body language suggested we are playing. And Rivers' hands tied. What's he going to do? Midway through in the 5th game of the series, he's going to, start Tyrese Maxey?
Right. No, there was no good solution. There really wasn't. You had to try to let him play his way out of it, and he couldn't. And, yeah, I mean, Joel Embiid even acknowledged it last night. He didn't want to I thought Joel Embiid was actually trying to maybe not – he was trying to have a quote that didn't go viral about Ben Simmons, and in the process wound up making one that went viral about Ben Simmons when he talked about the pass up of that dunk and how that kind of just sucked the air out. And it did. It sucked the life out of the building. It sucked the air out of the team. And from there, everything kind of seemed to go south. It's the whole team was tight to me last night. I mean, everybody was. And I just think
it was weird, man. I mean,
yeah,
there were moments. I mean, Embiid with that monster dunk, I mean, he comes down and you felt like, all right. And then Embiid came out early, hits the spinning, and it's like, all right, that's a good sign. But even him, at one point, I was sitting next to Michael Kasky-Blomane, and I said to him, Joel Embiid has 29 points, and you wouldn't even know it. Like, he had an up and down. I mean, the turnover, there was just no rhythm or flow to his game, which in turn, no rhythm and flow to their game. And I know us two have been two guys who have mentioned Green not being there, but being in the building, you really see they have no respect for anybody in that corner. Nobody. Thibault sitting in the corner, they don't care. George Hill standing in the corner, whatever. So I thought that was another problem because there were so many guys around Embiid. I mean, he just couldn't get any movement. And I don't know, very clunky, and it brings you to now what? I mean, Danny Green's a free agent. You got the Simmons issue. They got so many questions now going into this offseason. I guess Maury's going to talk tomorrow. But what is other than Simmons, what is the top thing that they have to evaluate?
I wrote it after the Game 5 meltdown was they lack shot creation on the perimeter. They lacked it last year. They lacked it this year. They had it in Jimmy Butler. And they didn't have it the year before that, and that's what cost them the playoffs when they got in 5 games and they got beat by the Celtics. I mean, it's just them not having shot creation is the biggest thing that's keeping them from getting over the top. You look at the Hawks. I mean, Lou Williams creates his own shot. Gallinari was able to create his own offense. Obviously, Trae Young, Bogdanovich at times, Herder was able to create. They had guys that could just take somebody off the dribble. The Sixers don't have that guy. As brilliant as Seth Curry was, that's not his game. As great as Danny Green was at times this year, that's not his game. Ben Simmons, it can be his game at times, but when he's not playing at his aggressive level, he's not giving you that. Tobias Harris, to an extent, he can create his own offense, but not on the perimeter. He can't break down people off the dribble. And then, as you kind of already touched on with Joel Embiid, they're showing him 3 and 4 bodies wherever whether it was at the nail, whether it was in the post, wherever he got the ball, he was seeing 3 Atlanta Hawks at all time. So it's really hard to manufacture offense when you don't like. The ball movement wasn't great, obviously. The pace wasn't great and all that. But when you don't have a guy that you can just give the ball to and say, "Get me a bucket," when you don't have a guard like that, it's going to hurt you in your half-court offense. And they haven't had one other than Jimmy Butler for years. And to me, that's got to be that priority. Whether you get that player in a trade for Ben Simmons or you acquire it in some other way, that's the biggest thing they need.
The shot creation, that means what do you do with Simmons? I mean, is it an obvious situation where you have to look to move him, or do you have to redefine his role? I mean, is that a real logical scenario?
Well, I'm not selling him for pennies on the. I know like the response, the very reactionary and emotional response, and I get it, is trade him. You got to trade him. Got to trade him. Right, his value is never going to be lower than it is at this moment. So if you trade him, you're not going to get good value. Granted, if he plays and he doesn't play well next year, you're not going to get good value then either. But I don't think Morey is going to give him away. Like we're not talking like I see some people throwing out stuff and throwing things against the wall, and I don't. They're going to have to get something. I know I saw John Hollinger, the Athletic, said a Levine trade could make sense. And to be honest with you, that was one I didn't like. I didn't like the idea of Simmons for Levine. Now I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about that because I think it kind of makes sense. And it's tough, Mike, because, I mean, if he can find a way to keep everyone intact, but also somehow get a shot like, I don't know, whether it's a sign and trade for a Kyle Lowry or whatever you got to do to get like a shot creator in here, or Mike Conley is a guy I love that I think would be great here. If you could do that without, trading one of your 3 guys, great. I think that could work. And to your point, maybe Ben Simmons changes positions, becomes more of a traditional point forward, sets more screens, does more of that kind of stuff. I'd be open to that for sure. I don't know if that's realistic, though. I think with money, you're probably going to have to move on if you want to make that happen. So it's a sticky situation. And yeah, I mean, Levine's a guy that I would have high on that list, but like a guy like D'Angelo Russell, is that going to work? Or do you think D'Angelo Russell is going to make you that much better? Because I don't. Yes, he's an offensive improvement over Ben Simmons, but I don't think he makes you better as a team.
Yeah, it's one of the unique oddities of this situation is that you have a team built around the strong suits of what Simmons offers. And this is a team that has accepted that he is not going to be a scorer. The fans might not have accepted that, but the team has, and built the team as such that, okay, we'll give you 2 shooters, we'll give you a guy in Harris that's a good secondary scorer, and everything will go through Embiid. Therefore, we don't really need you to score all that much. And then we get to these playoffs, and it's like, all right, let's find out if that formula can work. Well, some of it was predicated on the fact that the scoring that he did give you, while not as much as you wanted, went from 14 to essentially 2. How do you account for that and suggest, okay, well, is he now a guy that's just going to score 2 points a game, 4 points a game? I mean, Has he dropped off from he's been an 18-point guy, a 14-point guy. I think he's around 11 in these playoffs. He's been 2 or 4 the last couple of nights. I mean, so how do you account for that? That is what is the most puzzling thing is, has he completely lost it to where that's who he is now? How do you answer that question?
No, yeah, I can't say that because I think as much as he has struggled at times in the playoffs, like you said, we've never seen it this bad. And he has acknowledged, for him to acknowledge multiple times, it is mental. Tells me that
you go like the whole thing with Fultz that was so puzzling to me was people would say this guy stinks. I said, he stunk in the NBA. There's no denying that. But that wasn't the player they drafted. They didn't say, this is the guy we want number one. No, the guy that they wanted as number one was not the player that ended up getting into the league. So we don't know that Fultz that played at Washington could actually excel in this league because we never saw that guy. But part of that was mental. So you're wondering if Simmons is now in the same spot as Fultz as, here's this guy who had this unbelievable talent, and because of whatever shortcoming he has, it is now basically disintegrated his talent to useless.
I'm not there. I can't say I'm there just because it was one playoff series. It was bad. Don't get me wrong. It's bad. It's that dunk that he didn't take. That was the worst example I have seen, and I've covered him every year of his career. That's the worst example I've seen of a play where he had a shot and just was afraid to do it. And he's, he acknowledged he heard footsteps last night. He thought Gallinari was behind him and going to block the shot. It's like, you can't be afraid that Danilo Gallinari is going to come from behind you and block your shot. You got to dunk that thing. And I do think that
he had a dunk earlier in the game too. It almost looked like he crapped his pants when the guy gave him the pass. He didn't want to it almost was like he didn't want to dunk that ball. He had no choice.
Yeah, and I think the Hack-a-Ben Simmons, the Hack-a-Ben strategy, I think that like Doc Rivers tried to say that he didn't think it leaked into the other parts of his game, but it clearly did. Every time he touched the ball, he was afraid he was going to get fouled. And like in the past, when people have said that, I thought maybe that was like a little bit like I didn't really buy that. This playoffs, so yes, 100%. When he had the ball,
I tell you,
he was afraid he was going to get fouled.
I agree 100%, and I feel the big turning point of the series is that he's in his home building and the fans are cheering for him. I know it seems like, hey, we're being positive, but it made a mockery out of it. It made a mockery out of the fact that he couldn't make a foul shot. You got the fans cheering and clapping for you when you make a freaking foul shot. I mean, at that point, I think he realized this is bad. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want this whole prop and circumstance just for me being at the foul line. And just at that point, I think he lost it.
Yeah, the 4-14. I mean, that was the game, and that was that's the game that game 5, and I think that ruined the psyche of not just Ben Simmons. I think that ruined the psyche of the entire team. And it's crazy because you remember that game 3 where he has that third quarter where he comes out and he dominated. He took that game over after halftime in game 3 in Atlanta, and that's when you started to think, okay, here we go. Like, this is the guy. Like, and that was to kind of like your original point, Mike. That was the guy that we had seen at times throughout the regular season that would, every once in a while, he would take over a game. He was capable of doing that. And then once that happened where he did the 4-14 and just really they started hacking him every game, and it snowballed. It got worse. Then it got to the point where Doc Rivers can't keep him on the court in the fourth quarter. Well, if you're Ben Simmons, how good, listen, Doc was right to do it, but if you're Ben Simmons, how good does that feel when your coach can't even trust you to keep you in the game? So I think it was just a snowball. It just every game it got worse, and everything that went bad, it just kept going south and south and south, and it's like quicksand. Like he couldn't. It seemed like the more he struggled, the worse it got, and the more he kind of got buried. So
that's a good point. Is how much of it too did he lose confidence in that? Even his coach lost confidence in him. I mean, the coach tried as hard as he could to not show him that I'm losing confidence, but it got to the point where he didn't have a choice. I mean, last night he's got to play George Hill 22 minutes in that game because his point guard essentially, couldn't give him anything. So he had to play George Hill for 22 minutes later. He tried Maxey. Hey, Maxey gave us a lift in this game. Let's try him. You're asking a 20-year-old rookie in Game 7 to come in. He didn't have it. I mean, the fourth quarter, all right, let's roll another pair. See if I can get Milton to give me something. And then what's Milton going to do? You stick me out there in the fourth quarter to do what? Just shoot? What am I supposed to do? Shoot 7 shots, 8 shots, 10 shots? What am I supposed to do? I mean, he had his hands tied, but it was at that moment, too, where Simmons is getting taken out that the coach showed him, I also have no confidence in you.
Right, and all year long, obviously, Doc has defended Ben, and to me, that was the right strategy. There was no good in just ripping him to shred. Like that benefited. Like that would not have made this situation any better. That would not have magically made Ben an 80% free throw shooter in this series if he had ripped Ben all season long. I really don't believe that at all. But I also think yeah, to your point, that's an acknowledgement. When he pulls him out of the game in the fourth quarter, that's acknowledgement of, I can't trust you in this
Yeah.
situation. Ben knows that. Doc knows that. And I thought Doc was, I thought Doc was a little bit more blunt last night, a little bit more honest, and even today with his assessment of Ben, he acknowledged the free throw shooting killed us. It killed us as a team, and it's tough because, and the way I look at it too, because as a guy who's been around this guy for years, seen his growth as a player, like, he's a human, and he clearly was going through something in his brain that affected him on the court. And like I said, that snowball factor of just things kept getting worse and worse and worse. And Doc Rivers seems to think that he said they met today and that it was a very positive meeting and that, they think they're on a good course to maybe help him improve. But I get it from people who say, well, we've heard that story before. We've seen how this movie ends, and we see the videos and his workouts and how much he's shooting and how great it is and how much he's improving. And then the season starts, and then this is what happens. And so,
how is that possible?
I don't know. I don't know how many more off seasons you can afford to go through this.
Right. Okay. So, you've covered the team 4 or 5 years now?
Mm-hmm. About 5. Yeah, I guess about 5. Yeah.
Maybe Jimmy Butler. I don't know, but is it amazing to you that no teammate has ever gotten into a confrontation with him?
Yes and no.
That to me is the most I don't know. I'm a pretty competitive dude, man. I mean, if my teammate was Ben Simmons and I watch these videos of him shooting, I mean, he's pulling up for threes, spinning away, fall away, jumpers in it, and I saw those videos and I see him in the game. I said, dude, really? You're putting this video out and you're giving me this crap? Seriously? Like, yeah. I don't understand how there hasn't been some sort of confrontation from a teammate that is like what Shaq said last night. I said, you're damn right, Shaq. He's like, if he was in my locker room, I would beat his ass. And, like, you wonder how there hasn't been someone who has just lost it on him.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Joel Embiid, in years past have some pretty damning passive-aggressive quotes that were clearly directed at Ben Simmons, maybe not directly, but it was clearly about Ben and his lack of shot and his lack of aggressiveness and his lack of wanting to shoot. Yeah, I mean, Danny Green today kind of defended him, but it's tough. I mean, I guess we also don't know. Like, right. maybe there are conversations that are happening that we don't know about. Maybe there are people that are behind the scenes that are upset. But I just think publicly, I don't think it benefits anyone for him to just get roasted publicly. And then I also think when you see Ben, and this doesn't make it better, it doesn't, but when Ben is acknowledging that there are issues, what can you say to him other than you need to do better? And then he says, yeah, I know. And it's just not there. I mean, it's on Ben. I mean, Ben has to be better, but I just don't know. I don't know that someone whooping his ass is going to make it any better. I don't know if that's what he needs. I don't know if that's going to help.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that somebody hasn't gotten to that frustration. Like, okay, right. People say, well, he doesn't work on his game or he can't do this. It's not that he can't shoot. You have seen it. I have seen it. I was there last night. He's shooting 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, and they're going swish, swish, swish. He must have shot 500 free throws last night, it felt like. He sat at that line for an hour. And, I mean, if he makes 9 out of 10, he's swishing them right through. And then he gets to do a game. It's like, why are you sitting in the corner shooting a three-pointer before the game if you have no intention of using that shot? None. Like, you're wasting your own time. It's like, hey, if you take 100 practice swings and they're all bad ones, taking 100 bad swings doesn't help you become a better hitter. If you take 100 shots in the corner and never intend to use it, you might as well have taken 100 shots someplace else on the court that you do and plan on using it.
Right. I don't really have a good answer. I really don't. I mean, it's just
that's like, I don't know that I'm not on the daily calls or that kind of stuff, So has anybody ever said, hey, Ben, why do you shoot in the corner in pregame with no intention of ever using that in the game?
Yeah, I mean, he's been asked a million different ways, a million different things about the shot, and it's always very, how do I put it? Maybe not dismissive. That might be too strong of a word to use, but he just always says, it's something I'm working on. It's something I need to get better at. It's something that I'm trying to improve my game. Like, that's
what it is, right?
Really the extent, and that's the extent of it. He doesn't really elaborate on that. He doesn't really, he kind of just kind of brushes it aside and says, yeah, like I'm trying to get better at it. And it's, yeah, I mean, you talk about the difference between him doing it in practice and then him not being able to do it in a game. And it all goes back to the mental aspect of it. I don't love his shooting form. I don't think it's great, but it's also not the worst shooting form I've ever seen. And I do think at times it looks like it has the potential to maybe go in. Like, it could probably go in just as much as it goes in for Giannis, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I think there is something to when he's more, and I think we've seen it in his game when it's a cyclical thing of when he's more aggressive during the game and he gets to the line more, he gets into a rhythm and then he hits more of them. So again, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like, is he not being aggressive because he's missing the free throws, or is he missing the free throws because he's not being aggressive? And I think it's both. It kind of all ties into the other thing. And yeah, I mean, as to why he takes those shots, yeah, I mean, he wants to improve. He wants to hit those shots. But if he's not even willing to look at them in a game, then he's never going to get better at doing it in a game. You could take a million of them as you want in practice, but if you're not doing it in game situations, it's never going to improve.
It's just amazing, like, that he has gotten however far he is and has been as successful as he is with no intention of doing that. But it's also like, hey, Doc Rivers, look, Ben, find the spot on the floor where you shoot and feel the most comfortable. We're going to call 2 plays for your night from that spot. I don't care if you make them. I mean, I think Larry Brown told John Clark this the other day. It's on my ass. If you miss the shot, I'm the one that's playing you. Like,
right.
What message, or is it beyond that? Like, that's the thing I think is crazy, is that nobody has been able to get through to him just to say, dude, just take 2. 2 a game. Don't care when. Don't care where from. You choose. You pick where you feel most comfortable.
I would say maybe if I had a criticism of Doc Rivers this year, as far as the way he handled Ben, he didn't like in that third quarter. Again, I'll keep going back to that third quarter of that game 3. Doc Rivers said at halftime, Ben, we're going to feature you. We're going to put you in the post. We're going to run some stuff through you. I don't feel like they did that nearly enough for the rest of the series. And I think that could have helped. Like, if it were me, whatever, for better or worse, what I would have done is in game 7, I'm running the early offense through Ben Simmons, and I'm going to try to get him going. Because what does it hurt? If he stinks and he doesn't do it, then he doesn't have it, and you figure it out from there.
Crazy.
But if he has it, then you get him going. And like, it's, you talk about snowballing bad. Well, this could be snowball good. Get it the other way. Build that momentum so that he feels good as the game goes on. And then also that could save Joel Embiid some energy, so he doesn't feel like he has to take the game over early. And then that saves some energy for him late, so we can close the game out. So if I have a criticism of Doc Rivers, I thought maybe in game 7, he could have gone to Ben a little early, could have run some more stuff through him. Now, maybe he did try that, and maybe Ben didn't do it. Or I don't know. I don't know fully. But my thing is, I thought maybe he could have done that more to try to get him going and try to build that confidence, put the ball in his hands and make him feel good. And then maybe that could have, got some momentum and to a positive thing.
I feel that in the fourth quarter, they actually tried to give him the ball, like, on the couple times on the post block area, one of which he passed up the dunk. But there was one before that too, where he was kind of backing his way in, and he ended up passing it up. But I feel like they were actually trying to get him going in that fourth quarter. He had that one layup that he tried, he missed it. He got called for an offensive foul. So there were a couple things, but I mean, completely disappointing. And I struggle with the fact that here's this guy that I understand and appreciate the uniqueness that he brings, but I'm not sure that he's willing. Some people just don't want the greatness. Maybe he doesn't want to be great. Maybe he doesn't want greatness. Maybe he's happy being the guy. I say he is tremendous at elevating others. He can't elevate his own self. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I think the disappointment, Mike, stems from the fact that you and a lot of other people recognize how uniquely gifted he is, and how much more he could give because he has those gifts, and the type of player he can be at 6'10" with some guard skills, with his passing vision, the kind of guy he can be offensively, and that he has not realized that. I mean, and
the shooting thing too, though, Paul. The few threes that he has taken where he sets up and shoots them, he's made every one, I feel like. I think he's like 3 for 3 when he's caught it, had the look, And, the one in the corner that he made, he hit one from the wing. He had one against the Knicks the one night. I think he's like 3 of actual, maybe 4, when he actually just catches and intends to shoot, not a heave, not some craziness. So that's the frustrating part is he can't do it. Like I said the other day, I don't know if I was telling you, if you Google his summer league highlights, the first shot on the highlight is him shooting an elbow jumper.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
No. At some point along the line, he got this weird mental block. And, I don't know what it is. You mentioned Markelle Fultz earlier. I don't know what it is with the Sixers with this weird thing where, the development where they just don't develop shots. And, and this isn't, I'm definitely not making excuses. There are 0 to make anymore when it comes to Ben Simmons. But and we've talked about this earlier in the year. I always wonder what it would have been like if Ben Simmons went to a bad team. He got drafted on another team that was bad, that didn't have a Joel Embiid, a team that won 20 games. Would he have played differently? Would he have fired up shots? Would he have been more aggressive because he wasn't worried about it getting a team to the playoffs? He was worried about just doing his thing because he knew he was on a bad team and he had to carry them. And I wonder if somehow in his brain it got to a point where it him wanting to be a point guard almost overtook him just wanting to be a great basketball player and do a lot of other things. And I don't know. I don't know at what point he got from, like you said, even going back to LSU, there were games where he would take shots and do things. Even in high school, you saw some of his Monteverde stuff. You see him taking shots. I don't know how we got from, like you said, seeing these summer league highlights where he's taking shots and doing all that to a point where he just flat out doesn't do it. And it got to this point in this series to a point where he's not doing any of that. He's not taking any shots. Because even towards the end of the regular season of this year, I think of that Indiana game, he took that one fadeaway late that he hit. The Houston game, he took a pair of fadeaways that he hit. So it's just what? It's 100% a mental block in his head. And I don't know if he's got a sports psychologist can help him or what, but someone at some point has got to get through to him. And I don't know who that person is, but there's got to be someone that just needs to get it into his brain. And I don't know who it is, and I don't know how they do it, and I don't know what the approach is, but it's got to happen, and it's got to happen now.
By the way, his college, he was 1 for 3 in college shooting 3-point shots. So he didn't shoot very many there, 3. He did make 1. He was 67% from the free throw line at LSU in his one season, and he scored 19 points per game, which is funny because he scored more in college with less minutes than he scores in the pros with more minutes. Typically, hey.
But that's going back to that, though. That's LSU. He played for a bad LSU team that didn't even make the tournament. So he was the guy. He had to be the guy. He was in a position where he had to do it. And I almost think, I don't know, maybe he relies on Joel Embiid too much, and maybe it's kind of like going back to what you said, where he knows how to elevate the players around him, but doesn't know how to elevate himself. And it's just it's a weird mental block that I can't. It's almost impossible to describe. I don't understand it. I don't get it, but it's there, and he's got to do something to fix it.
So Paul Hudrick, Daryl Morey, find a way to move him. Does he want to move him?
He's gonna. To me, Daryl Morey's gonna explore it because I think Daryl Morey, that's the kind of executive he is. And if people are going to call him about Ben Simmons, he ain't going to hang up the phone. He's going to listen. Let's be real. Ben Simmons was almost traded earlier this year for James Harden. That's something that almost happened. So, of course, if the right deal comes along, Daryl Morey is going to consider it. But like I said off the top, he's not going to sell him low. He's not going to take pennies on the dollar. He is going to want to get something in return. So if all the Sixers fans that are just saying, trade him, get whatever you can, it's not going to work that way. Daryl Morey is going to have to get something of value and something that helps this team, something that helps Joel Embiid in his prime to win a championship. He's not going to give him away.
All right, at Paul Hudrick, the Sixers coverage at 97.3 ESPN.com. Plenty of off-season stuff that will now be considered, and we'll be talking to Paul throughout the off-season here, and of course we'll be taking a look at this Daryl Morey press conference tomorrow. We'll see what he has to say there. All right, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
Of course, Mike. Take care, man.